David Duval, and this is my driving special.
Golf Channel Academy.
Welcome to Golf Channel Academy. I'm your host, Charlie Reimer. We are at the beautiful Ritz-Carlton Golf Club in Orlando, Florida, and I'm thrilled to be hosting this driver show with my old buddy, David Duval. And David, you mentioned there as we started the show that you always felt like you're a wonderful driver of the golf ball. I can tell you, because I was out there, any player on the PGA Tour in the late 90s into the early 2000s, if you ask them who's the best driver of the golf ball on the planet, David Duval was at the top of that list, and the stats bear that out. But I always thought that your approach to driving was a little unique. Let's just jump right in with that.
Well, you know, I believe that driving the golf ball is the most important shot in golf. If you don't drive it well, you can't do anything else. The whole you're in a recovery mode. Really want to figure out how to turn driving into a tremendous strength. And really, kind of the light went off one day on the 16th hole, the 70th hole at the Northeast Amateur. I had a 1 or 2 shot lead, fighting with Jay Siegel. Lo and behold, what shows up? The hook. And from that moment on, I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to hook the golf ball again with a driver. I'm just not. You just can't do this. You can't play that way. You can't be afraid of when it's going to come out. And through that, I just learned a few things, taught myself a few things that helped me out tremendously along the way.
What did you discover with that one golf swing that ultimately got you to be #1 in the world?
It was a bit of a release pattern. And it wasn't something that I did all the time, because the majority of the time I still kind of cut the ball. But you get in those tense situations, you tighten up, and you get to the top of your golf swing, and all of a sudden you pull, and it just drops right behind you.
And that club face is wide open.
Look at this. Yeah, it's wide open. So here I am at the top. I pull it out, wide open, handle's gone up, okay? And now I'm this far from the golf ball. So what am I gonna do, Charlie?
Flip.
You know, and so it's either gonna come out and you don't time it, and it's gonna go that way. If you time it just right, it'll go straight, and if you don't, and you go fast, it's gonna go left.
Okay, so you discovered this, that you were doing that. How'd you fix it?
Well, I think it boils down to, if I'm here at the top of my swing, okay, and I pull out, I tend to lose my spine angle, right? Club face opens up, handle goes up, and now now I'm just in trouble. I can get it coming out on top of the plane this way. Now look at that club face, same position.
Let's see you launch one.
Here to here,
yeah,
you know?
Big difference.
And so, and it's something that was truly beneficial for a lot of years for me, because I had no fear. Our old buddy, my longtime caddy, Mitch Knox, would sometimes say, hey, you want to hit 3-wood here? I'm like, well, why? Is there something in my way? You know, is there something 300 yards away that I'm going to hit it into? And he's like, no. I'm like, okay, give me a driver. Let's hit it, you know? Let's take advantage of what you feel like are your strengths. And so I just tried to set up, tried to pay attention to where the ball was, tried to keep it inside my toe, somewhere in here, the ball of my foot. And from there, just rotate, basically. I'd take it back, try to get it, make sure I got it on top of the plane, and then just keep turning and letting the club get by me.
Sort of like that?
Kind of like that.
This first move you just demonstrated from the top,
right?
Show me that again, because I've never heard anyone talk about that.
Right. It's an it's going to be an exaggeration, but so I'll try to match it up. Okay. So when I get to the top, I want to make sure that the club gets out going this way. So as I'm at the top of my swing, I want it coming this way. So in essence, I want to feel like, and a lot of these are feels, because as you match it up with your turn, with your rotation, it doesn't look anything like that. But when I'm here, I want this to happen on my right wrist.
Whoa, 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 that's casting.
That is not casting. That's putting the club on top of the plane, okay? And as we all know, if you want to drive it consistently well, hit anything consistently well, you need to play on or on top of the plane. That's just all there is to it. And you're trying to eliminate face rotation, you know, shaft rotation, get rid of this. There's different ways to release. You can release like this, Charlie, you know, and the release is
rotate over.
Yeah, the release is to get the golf club as a right-hander from the right side of your body to the left, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Got to get it past you. Well, that's you can see it rolling. I just released it. Is that face moving?
No.
Face isn't rotating. I've just fully released the golf club though. Okay? So it kind of, as I get here, I want to feel like it goes like that. Okay? Looks kind of crazy. But now if you do that and you match it up with your rotation, where am I?
Perfect position.
Perfect position. Without the face rolling and rotating, no timing.
Let's see one more.
Let's see if we can do another one, huh?
And you can go at as hard as you want with this, right?
Well, typically the harder you turn, the more you go, the straighter the ball goes.
I like that.
And that's a good thing.
That's how you do it right there, ladies and gentlemen. I know we've got your attention right here on Golf Channel Academy. David Duval, former #1 player in the world, former best driver of the golf ball in the world. Stick with us. We got plenty more coming your way. We might even blow your mind a little more than that. Back on Golf Channel Academy with David Duval. That's a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, a lot of fun to watch that golf ball. But as you're watching that golf ball, you're learning a lot from the flight of it, correct?
Well, sure. There's a lot to learn from simply what the golf ball does in the air. You know, they want to say you can't hit the ball straight. Well, actually, you can. It's not the easiest thing to do, but you can hit it straight. But for me, trying to make sure I'm almost in a way forcing out a cut is what I'm trying to do. You know, typically if you see a hook, you're rarely going to see it from this type of position where you're on top of the plane. It might be like kind of a pull draw, but it's not so much going to be a hook. A hook comes from this way, from being underneath and the face wide open, so you have to really flip it and go. That's exactly what I don't want to do, and trust me, I've hit plenty of hooks in the last decade or so.
Okay, so let me throw a scenario at you. You feel like you're loose, you're swinging well, and you hit a couple that do turn over.
Sure.
Right, so what kind of adjustments do you make on the fly in the middle of a round to correct that?
I make sure that if I've done that, if I've turned the ball, hooked it, my grip has typically gotten up almost into the palm, okay? Almost like, kind of like, it's like a death grip. So I try to get it way down in the tips of my fingers and just get it really soft, because now when I do that, now I can get my right hand going and get it going underneath my left hand. And that way it prevents me from getting here where you're tight and having to force a flip.
Do you ever monitor your ball position during the course of a round? Does it ever get out of whack a little bit?
It's something I'll typically do more in practice and in warm-up as opposed to tournament play. Certainly there's situations, if you're really struggling, you might want to pay attention to it. But you know, if you set up as a player, you can typically have a pretty good vision. Golfers are pretty good in general. All right, I'm set up pretty square to where I want to hit it. Well, I can see that tee, if I draw it back, is right about where I want, right on the kind of the ball of my foot. You know, you could sit in here, Charlie, and you say, oh, that ball's pretty far forward, you know, and then this ball is pretty far back, you know. If anything, I personally believe you should be that little bit wider and air forward.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like the ball getting back, especially with a driver.
When you were playing your best golf, did you have one driver shot that you went to, or did you try to play a whole bunch of different types of driver shots?
I tried to play the straight to the cut.
That's it.
That was it. Yeah, you know what? I carried a 3-wood I could turn over.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so much I was trying to turn it over. It just naturally would turn over. Okay. And the driver, I'd like to set up when I drove the golf ball, aim it down the left center of the fairway. I knew that I had 25 yards to get it to the right to stay in the fairway. If I hit it straight or just a little bit of tumbler left, pulled it, it was going to end up typically in the first cut of the rough. So that gave me the width of the fairway to play, and it gave me the freedom to swing at the golf ball. Really, if you focus on simple things and keep it simple, you can succeed.
I know the folks at home like that. Don't go anywhere, because we got plenty more just like that coming your way next on Golf Channel Academy. So David, when you were 9, 10, 11 years old, whose swing did you try and copy?
if anybody, I'd say like a Fred Couples, the ease, the patience he had in his golf swing. Hearing Jack Nicklaus talk about cutting the golf ball, 18-time major champion. And I was fortunate to grow up in a household with somebody who drove the golf ball pretty darn good, my father. And it was a pleasure to watch him drive the golf ball. And so just kind of seeing what they did, how they made the golf ball move, I think was really beneficial to me growing up.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Now, to be fair,
No uh-ohs.
we had that set up.
Yeah.
But at the top of this show, your driving special, I commented on the fact that the thing you did the very best was drive the golf ball. And the stats do bear that out. In total driving, he was #1 on the PGA Tour for a couple years, in the top 10 just about every year for about 6 or 7 straight. But that's the part of the game that left you. What happened?
A lot of things. You can list injuries, you can list loss of confidence, you can list fear coming into it, list short-term memory. You lost it because all you saw was bad shots, So I'm not afraid at this point to do what I just did. I want to feel sometimes exactly what I'm trying not to do.
When you lost your driving ability, and from that, your ability to score, there were still a lot of fans that were behind you. There was a lot of empathy. People that, they were scratching their head going, what happened to our guy? You had to have felt a lot of that. Talk to me about some of the emotion that was in you when you were struggling so much.
Well, as much as anything, it's you have an ultimate belief in yourself. But as I've talked to a number of people over the years, replacing short-term memory is a very difficult, long, arduous process, and you have to do it through success. You have to go out and have success and see good golf shots. And to do that, you need an action and emotion that is repeatable. And I've basically been shown through Chris and ultimately Jim Hardy old videos of myself, and like, this is why you did what you're doing. This is how you did it. This is what produced those golf shots. And so for me now, that's all I work on. Don't get me wrong, I'll hit a couple hooks here and there. I'll lose it, but the confidence is building back, because that's what it takes. You have to have that confidence, because if you stand on a tee and you don't know where to aim it because you don't know if it's going right or left, you cannot play golf. You have to know where the golf ball is going off the tee, and that's why I talk about eliminating a side of the golf course. That way you can aim in a certain spot and know it's going to only work one way.
Okay, let's say you've hit back-to-back, low left and high right. You get up on the next tee, you got to correct it. Walk me through that.
For me, when that happens, I'll typically really kind of slow down. We talk about having patience when you play the game of golf. One of the things I rarely hear talked about is you got to have tremendous patience in your golf swing. Okay, you really have to let the golf club get up to the top and set. Almost a discernible pause at the top of your swing, the transition, if you will. For me, if I have to focus on a couple of things, I'll then focus on slightly deeper pivot, which is my right hip, okay? So I'll almost try to get it that much deeper in the golf swing, because that will give me the time and the space now to get the golf club going back out on top. And so what you need is to have that ultimate patience at the top of your swing to let it come back.
I've been to Niagara Falls. Have you been there?
Long, long time ago.
It's mesmerizing when you're watching the water. That's the way your drives are. I absolutely love watching those drives, and I know our folks at home do as well. David, this has been really, really neat stuff. Stick around. We got one more segment coming your way on Golf Channel Academy. Welcome back to Golf Channel Academy with David Duval. And David, you've described a wrist action that I've really never heard other players talk about. Let me ask you this. If you're out playing at Pro-Am, as you've been doing your whole career, and you've got somebody who's struggling with their driving, and you're talking to them about this wrist action, is there a drill, some sort of concept you can talk to them about that'll make them feel that?
Well, typically in those situations, I'd tell them to check a couple things. Obviously, you see a lot of amateurs aiming far left, and that promotes it kind of going way out, and that promotes the rotation. But couple summers ago, my little boy Brady called me from the golf course really upset. Let me see that sandwich for a second.
You got it?
All right. And he said, he's like, Dad, I can't hit the ball all of a sudden. He's a heck of a little player. I'm like, all right, I'll be out in just a minute, you know? And I drove out there and I was watching. I'm like, oh man, what have you been doing, buddy? I said, you know, you're going high, you're rotating. He goes, I don't know. And I said, all right, come here. So I got him a pile of about 10 balls, and I actually lined up 10 on a tee. I said, all right, buddy, set up and hit me a flop shot. So he went like this, and he went. I'm like, perfect, that's a perfect flop shot. I said, all right, now hit a driver. The same way. He's like, well, I'm like, yeah, just trust me. As you rotate, you're gonna feel that same feeling, but try to feel that same release with your rotation. And we kept going through it, and it took about 10 or 15 shots. And he's like, okay, now I feel it again. Now I know what I'm trying to do. And so little simple things like that. And it's maybe in the middle of a round, a 15 handicapper can't just go out and all of a sudden trying to hit flop shots with a driver, because it does it demands rotation. But when you have the time to hit and work on that, go out and give that a try and see how that feels. You'll be amazed at what happens.
David, is there any other way to get the feel of that unusual, and I'm gonna call it unusual, release that you use?
Well, there is. You wanna hand me those clubs?
Yep.
A couple of years back, I was on the range with Chris, who's helped me out a lot, O'Connell, and there's a big fence along the right side of the driving range, kind of protecting the cars, you know, and he said, all right, and so I backed up to the fence and kept about 5 feet in front of me, and he said, all right, now throw it directly behind you into the fence. I'm like, come on. He goes, no, trust me, if you try to roll, you're not gonna do it particularly successfully. But if you get your hands going this way, getting the right going under the left, you can throw it behind you. And see where my wrist is?
Hold on one second.
There's no rotation.
Let's get a reading on that one. 17 yards.
I can do better than that.
I bet you
so,
can.
Again, watch where my wrist is, okay? And the face is still square. You know? This is the release we're talking about.
37 yards, that's pretty impressive. But that's an unusual way to get the feeling that you're talking about.
Well, maybe it is, and it's not exactly a thing that anybody can do, but if you have a situation where you can really get a strong feeling of trying to get the club past you without rotating it and creating that circle you want in golf, well, that's a good way to do it.
One of the things that has been a theme of this show with you and driving is, sure, there's some mechanical things that happen, but you're not really a mechanical thinker. It's more about the feels, right?
Well, there is the old saying, you know, feel versus real, but you do have to be able to hit on a feel. And so if you're with an instructor and he tells you one thing and you're not quick picking it up, well, you know what? You got to talk about it a different way until you're like, okay, now I understand. You know, sometimes you need to get going more left. Well, that didn't quite work for me. All right, well, how about just getting your right hand under your left? And I start going, okay, now I can feel that. I can understand this. I can understand from the top getting this way so that it goes this way and creates that circle. And so the things I'm now, as we talk, paying attention to are a couple of simple things. I'm trying to make sure I have that kind of set. I'm trying to get the golf club coming out this way, and I'm trying to let it pass me before I come up. I've always rotated hard, and because of that, my head rotates, but it doesn't mean I have to lose my spine angle until the club is past me. As you lose your spine angle, again, it goes to what we talked about earlier. If I'm here and I lose my spine angle, I'm in trouble. So I want to maintain that and let it come up. Pretty simple stuff.
Well, David, will you finish this off with one more medium-high little baby cut that falls just to the right?
That's what we're striving for.
There it is right there. That's as good as it gets. David, really some great stuff. I know you've given me some things to think about. I know you've given our viewers some things to think about. And in particular, I appreciate you being so honest about the tough times. Really a lot of fun hanging out with you and hearing about driving the golf ball.
I appreciate it. I mean, golf's a hard game. We all struggle. Hopefully we can add a little benefit to your game.
Yeah, I want to thank the great folks here at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Club in Orlando, Florida, and thank our viewers for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on Golf Channel Academy.